Hello, good morning on our day 44 of our 99 days. I have to smile because I keep having those thumbnails wrong because that's the picture the YouTube takes before I go live. I can change the picture if I would like, but I think it's rather funny that every time I'm just doing something or keeping my head like this or anyway, it's not really relevant, but it looks funny. Now I was drinking. Uh, I'm going to wait a couple of seconds or minutes, see what comes up and who wants to join. And I have to dive a little deeper within because so many things came up this morning that I really have to feel and sense how to start and how to share this all to make some sense. So I'll take a minute here for myself and, of course, for you all. Sorry. Okay. There was a question asked to me if I could explain a little bit more about the session What If of 2 or 3 days ago. The session that was about that we create everything ourselves. And that person asked, well, if we create everything ourselves, how can a person who ends up in rape, murder, or happens to be at the wrong place and gets an accident, how can he or she create that herself? So that was the question, and I'm going to take a little detour, I think, because of what came up after that question. So at this point, I'm not sure I'm directly answering it. But what came very clearly to me is that as long as we don't understand and don't feel and don't really grasp what it is that we are acting as separate human beings, it's hard to understand the collective consciousness. And if we don't understand the collective consciousness, it's hard to understand what's actually happening in the world and why everything that's happening in this world tells something about us. So this feeling of living in a world being separated from each other, which we all feel, and I still feel it for a great deal of the time. I can feel this unity, but I'm not always completely aware of it, because then I dive a little lower in my frequency. Even though I feel amazing and great, it's not the same as feeling this complete unity with each and every one. And if you haven't experienced that, it's even hard to grasp. I get that. So this might still be theoretically a concept, but And at the same time, it's there as soon as we can step out of our constricted mind. If we can step out of our identified little self, because that's identified little self is what keeps us separated from each other. And it's a tricky thing because we are born in a human body, in a human form. And this human form actually creates separation. Actually, almost from day one, we're being separated even from the ones we're born from. So obviously we are very close to our parents, and especially to our mother, because that feels so one. But at the same time, life goes on. So the mother has to take care of other children, or has to work, or doing her things, taking care of her life. And that gives a little baby already the feeling of being separated. And you need that feeling of being separated in order to start in this world. Well, you don't need it, but that's how you're taught, to build your own life and to take care of yourself, and basically at the cost of other. And that at the cost of other is where we make the separation so strong. And now you're thinking that we're all selfish. Yes, we are. And I think you're not, don't think of yourself that you're really selfish, but we all are selfish, honestly. Not perhaps in every aspect of your life, but we are selfish in many ways to protect ourselves. We are selfish when we don't share ourselves with others, because we feel fear of being rejected. So we keep things for ourselves, or we're not open and honest with each other because we're afraid of being rejected. And then we feel this separation so strongly. Rejection is one of the biggest things, to feel separated. Because you literally are rejected from that other person or that other situation. So you are lonely again. And we fear this rejection so much that we protect ourselves. And we kind of go with the flow as people expect from us. We try to fit in. We try to not stand out, because standing out has the risk of being laughed at. Like at school, we all tried to fit in because we didn't want to be the one that got bullied, or we didn't want to be the one that got laughed at. And at the same time, we admired, at least I did, greatly, the ones who stayed authentic and didn't try to fit in. But trying to fit in feels like we try to be one, but we're actually trying to be so separate from each other. Because with fitting in, I'm not fully showing myself, and I'm not fully there for you as well. Because I won't be the one who's showing you something that might be painful, because I'm afraid you might not like that. I'm not showing myself that I'm feeling very discomfort with the situation, because I'm afraid you might leave. So this feeling of separation is so deeply, deeply ingrained within us that we can't see how we're actually, everything that's happening in this world is also part of us. And this sentence is a big step, I understand, so I try to make it smaller. Let me get one step back. I think we all see ourselves as good, decent human beings with perhaps lack beliefs, but those lack beliefs are just our own personal issue, and that's something we don't bother others with. even stronger, we think by not showing ourselves, we're actually pleasing others. And we try not to stand out because we don't like people who stand out. We think they're arrogant or selfish. And sometimes they are. When it comes with a wrong intention, they are selfish and arrogant. But by not doing it at all ourselves, we keep ourselves small, and we think we do that so we're helping other people, or at least not bothering other people. And from that situation, we kind of easily judge what's happening in the world. If we're not completely aware of what's happening all within us, we can easily judge someone else for doing something bad. And the person who is this criminal, or who is this bad politician, or who expresses crazy things about other people, about racism, that person we judge very strongly because we cannot believe, and we cannot even be honest with ourselves that there might be something within us that's actually doing something similar. If we judge someone who is very racist, so who's excluding groups of people by very explicitly expressing that, and putting other people down by explicitly expressing that, look at your own life. When did you put another person down? I did. I did put person down because I wanted to feel stronger myself. Or I gossiped about other people because somehow it made me feel better. I was a popular child when I was in primary school, but I didn't exclude the ones who felt left out, because being popular made me feel strong and seen. And I wasn't actively bullying anyone, but not bullying someone isn't including someone. So I wasn't an active racist or anything like that. But just this little thing of not including people while you know they feel excluded, while you know they feel left out, is a similar act in its purest sense as the person who does it actively and openly. But for us, it's normal to feel different from each other. For us, it's normal to judge each other. For us, it's normal to judge someone who does something wrong. And we even use the word mistake so many times. He or she made a mistake. And we judge ourselves for our own mistakes. But that, so this feeling of keeping ourselves separated from others and not completely including each other in each and everything, is something that happens at so many different levels in society, because we're raised like that, and we are constantly confirmed by the news, by what's happening in the world, by this extreme power structure. It's a structure of power and how do you say that? Keeping people down, keeping people. I can't find a word. Weird. So there's a world where people are so dominated by the big power structures, the ones who have the money and the ones who are ruling this world. And we kind of accept those things because we think it's too big to handle, and it is in a sense. But this structure that keeps us in fear and keeps us small and keeps us a person who who just adjust ourselves to fit in, is actually where we are just confirming the system every time. Especially when you are unaware of all this is happening, you can't even see this other perspective because you're like, well, I'm born here. I can't help that someone else has hunger in a third world country because, well, that's his bad luck, and I'm still trying to create my best life and doing my life the way it is, and I'm watching the news, but I'm not doing anything, and I can't even see my role in it because, of course, it has nothing to do with me. I can't help this. And directly, it has nothing to do with us. Directly. But indirectly, it has to do everything with us because we are part of the same unity. So we are still supporting unconsciously this way of living together. We're even okay with all the movies that are out there showing this. Actually, it's brought as a fantasy story, but it actually is real life that they're showing. So all the movies where people are just randomly killed because of the exciting action story is something that's not so far from the truth in real life. And by watching these movies and thinking it's an innocent thing to be amused for 2 hours, we're still confirming that we're okay with seeing these actions, with seeing someone being killed. How can we be okay with that? How can we support those things that we don't want to see happening in real life? And it's the same with, I'm not here the activist because I'm vegetarian, not at all. But I can see the flaw in thinking that we are okay with killing animals to eat them in a very brutal way. The killing is happening in a very brutal way in our industry. And they live a horrible life, a short, horrible life. And then they are killed in the extremist, worst circumstances you can think of. And we're okay with eating that meat and supporting that process. And I'm not saying here that we all have to be activists, and it's really hard here to become an honest, aware human being and living life balanced and in connection with all. I get that. But ignoring that we're not part of it, that we're not unconsciously supporting all these structures, and it is unconsciously also part of ourselves. That's, I think, where we are. If we're opening up to that perspective, we at least are opening up to healing this world a little bit and at least become very honest with ourselves. And I think if we all become more honest with ourselves, things will change for this world. So then this destructive world we live in, and how I can say we do create our own reality, and how people don't consciously choose to be killed or be raped. They don't come into this world like, okay, this is my path and I hope I will die like that. Of course not. That's not consciously created by them. And why it's unconsciously happening to them, I honestly can't tell. But it's happening in this world on a big scale. And the fact that it's happening on such a big scale is the fact that we're still approving it. We're still silently approving it. We're even still okay with seeing rape happening in movies. Okay, in the sense that we think it's part of amusement. I don't say that you'd like to watch it, but the fact that you're watching it is kind of like you're unconsciously okay with seeing that happening, that enormous, how can I get the word? That the domination of men over women, which is happening for centuries, ages. So the fact that we cannot change it doesn't mean that we're not unconsciously part of it. So this person who ends up in having a horrible life or being at the wrong place at the wrong time is not consciously creating that for herself, or himself. But perhaps in his upbringing, or perhaps in his blueprint or in his lines, that person still had to endure this because it's part of this collective unhealthy society we live in, unhealthy world we live in. And as long as we are living in an unhealthy world, people have to suffer. And we have examples of people who are getting out of these extreme circumstances. And they have woken up and felt the strength to heal themselves. I recently saw a video of someone who has been kept in the sex industry throughout her whole teenage life, since the age of 11, I think. And at the age of 17 or something, she came out of it. And she became a beautiful, strong person who is helping others in this industry to survive and to get out of it and to waken up. And so it's not that she as a child consciously chose that life or created that life. But it is a result of this collective consciousness that's still happening, this unhealthy, imbalanced, dominated and consciousness that keeps us in fear. Why things are still happening and why there are still victims of these extreme violent actions. And if we support political actions who are dominating other groups of people, who are supporting acts of war in this time of humanity, then we are supporting the situation where people get killed. So we do, in a sense, create that situation together. And I'm just putting these extremes out, not because we can change the world. Not one of us can completely change the world and heal it, but admitting that we are hypocrites in a way, that we're okay with doing something, but not okay when someone else does something. That we're okay with gossiping about a person and putting someone down, but we're not okay when someone does it publicly. We judge them for that. I'm not against. I'm not sure even if I'm against or pro. I haven't even figured out whether it's okay to kill an animal to eat. Because for us humans, it has been part of our system that we see ourselves as animal eaters for so long that we think it's normal. But why would it be normal? We can just live as healthy without the meat. That's proven by now. And if it's not proven yet, I know our system will adjust. But we also still, even if we don't eat meat, I still kill animals because the spider I don't like, or the mosquito that bothers me, or the ant that's in the way, or I do that as if it's the normalest thing in the world. Because our consciousness tells us that it's normal. Our unconscious tells us even that it's normal. And I'm consciously flying to Peru now 5 or 6 times a year or even more, knowing I'm polluting the world or having a contribution to this world pollution. I know that. I'm still consciously doing it. So I'm not saying we all have to change our behavior all of a sudden and become saints, but don't deny it either that we're doing it. Just be honest with yourself. And then see within that honesty what you would like to change, if there's any. Or at least stop the judgment on others. And this male dominant energy, which is so strongly present in our world, that creates acts like rape, and it creates also acts like being the hero, in a sense that they approve of themselves of killing others because of a belief system, or because they watched and play too many games online and they think they can be the shooter at the school. That strong male ego energy that's so dominating others, that's so strongly present in our world. And we all have part of that strong male ego, masculine, I shouldn't say male, but masculine energy in us, which is coming from the wrong source. It's coming from a source of dominating others and separation. And it's not coming from a source of where the masculine energy is just very strongly focused energy of reaching a goal. But nowadays, this strong masculine energy, which is in women and in men at the same time, present dominantly as well, also in women. That's actually this force of energy which is destructive, because we want to protect ourselves so strongly. So the fact that we, as a collective consciousness, create this world the way it is right now, out of balance, full of fear, where humans are being kept small, we keep ourselves small. We still believe in our limiting beliefs, our lack beliefs, so we keep ourselves small as well. We do it at world scale level, at humanity level, and we do it at our personal level. We're keeping ourselves so small that we don't want to shine, that we don't want to share ourselves with others. And our power structure nowadays is using is using our sensitivity to fear as a way to have power over us, as a way to control us. And they keep feeding us with fear. I mean, isn't it ridiculous that the news and the newspapers are only either full of bad news, there's only worse things happening in the world, bad things happening, or they're full of gossiping. And then, of course, there's some financial, economic information. But that's basically what the news is telling us. But there's so many good things happening we don't share. Because apparently it's not seen as news. Or it's not helping the people who have power over us to control us. Because this keeping us in our fear system, in the fact that we are afraid of everything. That's the easiest way to control people. And we let that happen. Because we support the structures they use, like the news channels, we support that by still watching it. And okay, I understand we watch news because we want to know what happens in the world. But don't disregard what you're actually supporting underneath that. Just look at it from different perspective. So much information is withheld from us, is kept from us on science level, on health level. For a period of time, I've dived deeply into all these different perspectives on health and on science. And it's unbelievable how much information you will find of things that are already known to so many scientists, but we can't share it with the world yet because it's not supported. On the contrary, those people who do share it are often kept silent again. Because part of our structure in the world is becoming rich for ourselves and creating a good life for ourselves at the cost of others. And I never had the intention during these 99 days to talk about this subject, but it's also difficult not to touch upon because it's such a mirror of actually everything that's also within us. Where are you still feeling you keep things for yourself because you're afraid that someone else might benefit from it and you might not benefit from it that so much? So this feeling of competition, I notice that's still within me. The fear of sharing openly because someone else might be stronger than me and create a better idea, and then I might lose this feeling of win and lose. And then my business idea might not be as successful. Which is a crazy concept in itself because there's so many. I mean, if you believe in your own world and if you believe in what you create, then I would create my success, and I would find my customers and my clients. But still, it's being very honest here. It's just this fear of losing the game. And competition is one of the great examples that shows that we are separating each other from each other, that we're separating ourselves from each other. And also there we use things like fear and control and power and keeping information from the other, because information is power. So yes, we do still create our world in a technical sense, because that's just literally how physics is happening. There is no reality without the observer bringing two waves of energy together. So two things come together, and then it's created in a form that we see as matter, that we see as our world. But because this is happening at such a great scale and so fast, we cannot comprehend that it's actually us doing it. And because we're doing it at such a collective, immense scale, and believing in the same belief systems, we can't imagine that we create actually the same things together. And as long as we're very unaware of what's happening, we keep creating the same things. We keep creating that what the power structuring is wanting us to create. We keep creating fear-based systems. And fear is actually one of the biggest things that is actually the cause of creating things we don't like to have in life. But I think that might be a separate subject. Yeah, I'll talk about fears another time. So if you want to be if you want to understand that we create life and why we create the things we do in this world, then I invite you to really look very closely, very honestly to every action you have for yourself or you see others doing, even if it's, I mean, there are some beings here are completely living beautiful life, and they have nothing in themselves that's doing something at the cost of others. They just simply are born with this pure love. But as far as I know, that's more the exception than the rule, unfortunately. So looking within ourselves, we can see traits of these acts that are happening on a big scale in extreme ways. And these acts are also within us in a similar way, but very, very tiny, very small. Even if you are a person who, out of insecurity and fear of losing your relationship, controlling the other person by keeping that person down or by correcting that person all the time or by blaming him or her for everything, then you're actually also using the same way of having power over someone else by separating yourself from that person and by judging the other first before you judge yourself, or before you even not judge yourself, but before you take responsibility of what you do, what your act is in this case. So look very closely at every detail in your life. And what does your mind tell you? Why does your mind approve of it? Because your mind says, well, but that's normal because that's how we live. It's normal we kill ants when they are running in our kitchen because it's horrible. Or when we kill a mouse, sorry. How normal is that? And if that's normal, why is that normal? So just explore and contemplate, and don't see this message or this session as something like you have to improve all your lives and we have to become saints. Or I don't think that's a very realistic way of living right now, unless you're really drawn to it. But at least for me, it is not right now, and I'm very aware of my flaws in this case. But I'm trying to be more I'm trying to be more conscious of what I say to other people and how I express myself. So I'm not in any way trying to put them down. And that's still a challenge for me. It's still interesting why that is such a challenge, because it should be so easy, but somehow, apparently, by approving someone or complimenting someone else, I apparently feel small myself. It's a weird dynamic. So there's so many little examples. Yeah, well, see if this makes it any clearer, and if not, then I would like to invite, if there's still a struggle with these two sessions, what if and the session of today, I would like to invite you to come up with something personal in your life where you can't see that you created it yourself, where you can't believe that you have created this enormous bad situation. Because it might help. It's always interesting that people go immediately to the extreme bad things if they don't want to receive this message. Because honestly, if you receive this message and you accept that we create our own world, then there's automatically this voice within you like, how on earth can we create a world like this then? How did we do that? How did we approve of that? How did it happen? Or how can someone create such an enormous, painful situation for himself? And I think, like I said before in another session, like it's perhaps an example to understand this is that why the abused often becomes the abuser. That's I would almost say a statistic in this world. People who have been abused as a child often become an abuser, especially the men who experienced being abused in a childhood become the abuser when they grow up. So anything we're not dealing with within ourselves is somehow expressing in such a way to protect ourselves of not feeling that fear or that pain again. Or not feeling so the fact that you have been abused and being dominated by someone else and you unconsciously as a child and innocently let that happen, does something with your belief system, does something with your self-esteem, does something with your unworthiness. And if you're not willing to heal that unworthiness, then it might be an easier way out to become the abuser yourself. So in that sense, we kind of keep creating this intense sadness in this world, or recreating it. Okay, rather long session. I hope it helped. And I'll see you tomorrow.